Anime is a vast and varied medium, and if you're not already familiar, it can be daunting to find something you might be interested in watching. This is a podcast where three average anime enjoyers introduce their uninitiated co-host to their favorite anime touchstones, so he can join them deep in the Weebs. This week we watched Gankutsuou, the Count of Monte Cristo. Gankutsuou is a 24-episode anime produced by Studio Gonzo. It is an adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Originally intended as an adaptation of the sci-fi novel The Star's My Destination by Alfred Bester, the copyright holder's refusal to allow an adaptation led series creator Mahiro Maeda to instead use Dumas' novel, which has parallel themes to Bester's story. The show first aired in Japan from 2004 to 2005. It was later adapted into a CD drama, a novelization, and a manga series. Perhaps the most striking element of the series is its visual style. The art style of the anime was used by Maeda to combine Western Impressionism with ukiyo-e, a style of 19th century Japanese painting, which strongly influenced the Impressionist movement. Among the artists referenced in the anime style was Gustav Klimt, who was one of Maeda's favorite artists, and provided inspiration for using blocks of strong primary colors. While the original novel took place during the Bourbon Restoration of the early 19th century, Gankutsuou takes place in a distant science fiction-based future. Set in the year 5053, the series focuses on the impact of the titular count. Formerly a sailor named Edmond Dantes, he was betrayed by his friends and imprisoned on false charges. Aided by a mysterious force dubbed Gankutsuou, Dantes escaped and refashioned himself as the Count, determined to exact vengeance on those who wronged him. The series is mainly told from the perspective of Viscount Albert de Morcerf, the teenage son of one of the Count's enemies. As with the original novel, Gankutsuou focuses on the theme of revenge, Edmund's pursuit of his enemies, and how far he is prepared to go to exact slow, calculated retribution, is the central plot of both the novel and the anime. According to series creator Mahiro Maeda, the original story's Christian elements, which focused the novel's themes on forgiveness and divine retribution, were cut out to make the story more accessible to the audience. In addition to him thinking that the Count would never have enacted his revenge in the face of the novel's Christian themes. As a consequence, the anime's central theme became how the cast's actions are influenced by their emotions. For our show today, we watched 4 episodes. Episodes 1, 2, 4, and 11.
Yeah.
In space.
Yes.
In space!
It's not just revenge. It's space revenge, which I'm told is a dish best served cold.
Oh yeah.
Does anyone here have experience with the Count of Monte Cristo regular style?
Yes, but it's been probably a decade.
Okay. Were you a fan back then, I guess, is the answer.
I feel like answering that one way or another says a lot about me. I liked it for reasons. No, it was actually really good. I enjoyed it.
I think I started reading it once. I don't know if I ever finished it, but I do like a very exacting... Okay, there's something that I realized watching this show, and I don't know if I should bring it up now or near the end.
Do it.
Okay.
I dare you.
I do like a very Columbo structured show where you are actually focused on the bad people, and then your good guy monster starts appearing on the fringes and slowly gets closer to delivering comeuppance. And that is my memories of Count of Monte Cristo regular style. It is very much something that was present in this show, and I feel like that also describes 24 with Jack Bauer in the part of the monster.
While I can't speak to the 24 monster, I can say, yeah, that struck me watching this as well. It's like, oh, we're obviously we're taking liberties. This is an adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure. Who knew it didn't take place in space originally? Um, but yeah, like it's like you're still kind of hitting the major beats. I'm about this. I'm here for it. But I also you here's the one problem on why I have trouble remembering the Count of Monte Cristo. I read, I think everyone probably read this in high school, but I have read and reread the Tale of the Cask of Amontillado a few times, so they kind of blur together in my brain.
Love that story. It is
Because
sort of, I guess, like theme-wise, kind of a more like super condensed
oh no, it's a me
version of
problem.
it.
It's definitely a me problem because at some point the title becomes the Count of the Cask of Amontillado in my brain.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, wait, no. Where Dante's is not putting them in the cellar. That's not what he does here. Different story.
Okay, so then how come in my head keeps popping up The Man in the Iron Mask, which is not a story I actually know. I only know the weird bucket-headed guy from the Wii
The
game
movie.
Trauma Team.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because that's set around a similar time period, or at least aesthetically overlaps.
And like the Iron Mask is like a prison thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's prison involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I can see why. If I let my brain focus too hard on that, it might become a conglomeration of 3 stories instead of 2. I refuse to let that happen.
The only reason I don't confuse it with Cask of Amontillado is A, because I haven't read it, and B, because when I think of that, I actually just think of that one episode of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh no, I saw that. I know exactly the one you're showing or talking about because they showed it on John Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
Grim.
All right, so let's get into it. Episode 1, at Journey's End, we meet.
Bring out the Bob.
I was going to say, I can fully admit I have no experience with the Count of Monte Cristo. So for me, this is watching an anime that is based off a book that I have not read, which I suppose, since I'm the type of person who gets upset with movies when they aren't like the book, that's a good thing.
I'm actually really interested to hear your take then, as going in like super blind.
Yeah, so the fact that we have a blue vampire who, with the episodes that we watch, apparently is not a vampire, is very interesting. We pretty much open. He's just a count. So there's all these titles, which I am not knowledgeable on titles. But it seems like count is really important. But there's all sorts of others. I don't ever hear like Super King or His Royal Super Majesty. So count must be important.
I hear Joe typing away in research.
That being said, we don't even open with the count. We open up with a couple of friends, France and Albert, because that's how you say it. Not Albert. He is Albert.
Is he a Prince Albert?
Now,
psychic damage delivered.
You want to know the real psychic damage is that as soon as these kids appeared on screen, I was like, oh, the way they riding in that car is very back and to the left.
So they're visiting a foreign planet, or is it just the moon?
The moon.
They're on Luna at the beginning.
So we meet these two, Albert and Franz. They're best friends, and you can tell they're French because his name is Albert, and his name is Franz. I feel like I'm setting myself up for a Saturday Night Live skit, but that is just not the case.
You don't know that yet. The day is young.
That is true. So Hans and Franz have went to the moon because it's Moon Mardi Gras, and they want to see them boobies. But apparently, since they're nobles, they aren't really allowed to go as per the rules of everything in ye old Moontown. They have to go to the opera first.
Well, because I think they talk about Albert is from a rich family, but he has lived like a fairly sheltered life. So this is like his first experience of like not just the Mardi Gras event, but like any city life at all.
He is a rich boy from a rich family.
So I understand now. He lives in a closed, secluded life, and his friend's first thought is, do you know what will cheer you up? An opera. Makes sense to me. And we learn throughout this episode that Franz is not exactly the most sheltered person, but his story is further on. So they go to the opera, which is okay. But while there, they hear whispers and wonders. They look up to one of the overhangs, which has a proper name, but because I don't regularly visit the opera,
The
I
box
don't.
seats.
Thank you. Up in the box seats, they see what would appear to be a, very vampiric Smurf, come chillin', bringing in his cape and his cane and his top hat. Everyone's whispering about how it's the Count of Monte Cristo. Which, even though I haven't read the book, I've at least, heard of it. So it's like, oh, so this is based off of that. Because my silly, stupid self didn't realize that it's in the title of the show. I just remember Gankutsuou.
Listen, I don't read much, titles included. I really did not think they were going to straight up say Count of Monte Cristo in the show, but it's just like, oh, you're just doing it. All right, okay, all right, fine.
I wonder if that means that they plan on doing other movies based off of, or movie series based off of different books. That would be interesting. That being said, the opera occurs. Apparently, the Count's all about it because he's throwing flowers. And his watch, where Albert is like, oh, his watch, how very important. Now we can meet this mysterious Count that everyone is talking about. Because that seems like a smart thing to do. Hey, I'm in a strange area. Let's go meet the creepy dude.
Well, he was already going towards the dock where the Count parked his Flight of the Navigator ship, and I don't know what his plan was being there. The fact that the Count dropped his watch was just like bonus motivation for him. Or am I skipping ahead?
How much of this is in the book? As far as I get, it's not in space, blah blah blah. But
it's been a minute, but I seem to recall this something similar to this occurs.
Yeah. A lot of the characters are from the books. Some of the, especially as the series goes on, the story changes a little bit, but a lot of the core essence of like who the characters are, is straight from the book.
I feel like the Count kind of knows Albert a little bit, or is aware of him, without actually having met him yet. He's steering him to kind of a meeting.
It's possible.
I would almost completely guarantee that. Like, this is one of my notes for like the second episode. Is just like the Count, this dude has set up 7 different ways to ensnare this kid into a quote unquote friendship. But we'll get to it.
Yes. Albert's like, hey, I got your watch. The Count's like, let's have dinner, because that's one of those natural things to do. I would actually probably go to that dinner because he is a Count. You represent your whatever, your country, but not quite your estate as Albert en France.
Yeah, so as far as the Count title goes, it's one of several titles, like like a duke or a marquis, or a baron. They're just like
they're landowners.
Like they're part of the noble rank tier of the population. So but like they're not royal, but they're the rich. The rich non-royals. Yeah.
The 1%.
And you can tell he's 1% because at dinner at that, popular Mardi Gras event, beheadings, he's like, hey guys, see those wonderful people out there about to die, and Albert in France, and I will never not say it like that, are understandably upset, This is kind of a weird thing we don't really want to watch, but, this is not an area we normally go to. So live and let live. The Count is like,
before we go too far, can I just... Did I have like a fever dream, or were they eating a trilobite?
Some sort of moonfish thing.
Okay.
I don't judge your moonfish. Wow.
I just want to make sure I wasn't imagining like that's a trilobite in there, right? Like I'm curious enough, but I didn't even bother googling trilobite to confirm I was seeing that. I'm like I'm gonna let someone else tell me I'm wrong.
It looks
There
like
is
one,
an
but it
awful lot of
was
seafood, isn't there?
softer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's very common for French cooking,
And the moon.
actually. And the moon, apparently.
Escargot, ancient prehistoric sea fish thing. Yeah, the French like their crustaceans.
No snail. So, the Count is kind of showing up how strong he is as far as relationship goes to people on the moon, I feel like. Because he's playing his cards outwardly, literally.
Literally. Okay.
Yeah. There's these three wonderful people about to be beheaded, two of them declaring their innocence, and one screaming, I didn't, I have no regret. I will say at this point, I knew what was going to happen. I'm pretty sure everyone else did too. But Albert, being the innocent boy that he is, it's like, sure, I will pick a card, even though Franz is to the side saying, no, don't do it. Because he's like, a creepy vampire smurf is just trying to mess with you. Albert draws the card, and it ends up being the bad murderous guy who gets freed. While we assume... Oh, go ahead.
I gotta talk about this quote-unquote card game for a second, because playing cards appeared, so of course game brain takes over.
Yeah, I was expecting more Yu-Gi-Oh!
So he shuffles like a full-size deck of cards, deals 3 cards face down, and asks him to pick one. And that is the most like no finesse magic trick I've ever seen, because it's just like like guaranteed every card in that deck had the one like non-repentant criminal's name on it, right?
You'll never know.
But
and the weird part is I don't feel like he had any pull one way or the other. Like the killer is not associated with the Count in any way, where whoever got released, it doesn't matter.
oh yeah, no, like this honestly, this scene was really hard to watch, because this is where you really first realize, like, not just that, but like the whole way that like the Count is sort of guilting him into like, oh, we have the chance to pardon somebody, would you not do this good in the world? Like, it is the most manipulative sort of like this is the beginning of this sweet cinnamon roll is going to be eaten alive, not just by the city but by this vampire elf as well.
Yeah, felt very bourgeois. Like, and when I say that, I mean like, let them eat cake era bourgeois. I was like, oh, this is cute. We're gonna do this.
But the thing is, like, even Franz is not particularly like down with it. He's like, this is weird even for us, the rich. Because so that was actually something else that was pointed out earlier during the opera. Somebody mentions that the Count is nouveau riche. So like he is new money. Like he basically appeared rich out of nowhere. So there is this like already none of the established families trust him, because yeah, he might be rich, but nobody knows him. He does not like, he just appeared out of nowhere into the high class. So there is really this undertone of just like, oh yeah, nobody is trusting this guy out the gate. And like poor naive Albert is like there's definitely a reason why he was like had his eye on Albert before he was on the moon, but like he is most definitely the like his way in to be like, oh, I will make friends with this one kid who doesn't know enough to be weary of me.
Yeah.
So after the supposed beheadings and the freedom of a murderer, Albert's like, let's go home, and Franz is like, that's right, we're gonna go home. We're done. We're packing. We're leaving. The Count's even like, hey, you want to do more? And Franz is like, no, we're going. Bye. They get back to the hotel, I guess. I feel like they shouldn't be staying at a hotel, but I really think it's just a hotel.
Yeah, it's a hotel.
Rich people stay in hotels.
And Franz is like, hey, we got an early morning pack up. And Albert, still feeling like kind of not happy, if I had to guess. It's like, I'm going to go out on town. The kid who is fresh to the moon is going to go out pretty much by himself.
because he's like still reeling from everything that happened at the execution, and he's like, I gotta process some stuff. I gotta go walk morosely in the rain. I'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
At which point he finds someone that he is going to perform adult things with.
Right there on the park bench.
Yeah,
Yep.
in the Space Red Light District.
And it just gets all great.
Not even. It's the night for hooking up.
Yep. Hooking up with someone who has a gun. Bum, bum, bum. End of episode.
Uh-huh. They sure have a gun.
She pulled that gun, and I was just like, hell yeah, get his ass.
Yeah.
The smile, though, was like,
Mm-hmm.
I literally put in my notes, is that a gun you have pointed at me, or are you just having... Oh, that is a gun.
Well, it's also funny because, like, again, earlier when they were walking into the opera, they meet up with someone Franz knows who is, like, you know, been around the block a time or two, you know, and like the doing stuff in public on a bench sure is not a problem, because even that lady was just like, oh yeah, you've never been to the city before? Oh, it's great. You can anything you want to when you're on the moon.
Every time we add in the moon, I keep flashing back to Futurama, the sailors on the moon bit. Thank God I'm muted because I'm dying over here.
But yeah, that's the end of episode 1, and then we proceed directly into episode 2, Until the Sun Rises Over the Moon.
So I assume y'all have been watching this in English?
Yes.
See.
Okay.
Why?
I'm just curious if the at the start of the episodes, if the voiceover is in French or in English.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
English? I think English.
I'm just curious because I watched it in Japanese, and the little things at the beginning were done in French, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Also, the voice of our little cinnamon roll Albert is Johnny Young Bosch, who you may also know as Vash from Trigun.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That's cool. So episode 2 essentially picks up where episode 1 leaves off. We got Albert and his kidnapper, and apparently they are part of a gang belonging to a very Italian individual, Luigi Vampa. Now, it's super fancy, and we really don't learn his name till a little later on because France loses his friend and is wondering what's going on. And, you know, he talks to a couple people who are like, well, you know, this is a dangerous area. Maybe he's disappeared. We don't know. You should check. I'm sure he'll be fine because France is just trying to have a peaceful night. And he's like, okay, maybe I should return back to the hotel. He leaves the place and runs into the murderer that Albert has pardoned. The dude's like, hey, give me 50 million moon money and your friend will be fine. And that's not a little bit of money. And France explains that to him. But the murderer's like, you're rich, you can get it gathered. France is like concerned. He goes to the closest bank, and apparently there is solar flares that are interrupting the electronics, so he is not able to get the money. This is split in 2 stories, by the way, so I'll tell France's side and then I'll get over to Albert's. France then realizes he has to suck up his pride and talk to the only other person he knows who may have the money, the Count. So he goes to the Count, explains the situation. Count's like, sure, apparently. And they head on the way. Flip over to Albert's side. So Albert's
real quick, though. When Franz explains what's going on to the Count, and the Count is like, all right, let's go off. He, like, calls up his private carriage, which has the most badass heavy metal album cover Iron Horses on it.
Oh my god, yeah. So
it's giant on the inside. What's going on with that? It's like the size of a house.
A lot of the like backgrounds and city view stuff is computer animated, and this is early 2000s, so it's very, very early 2000s.
It's very classic.
This absolutely reeks early 2000s, and that's one of the things I love about it.
Here's a joke for graphics card nerds. This show is software rendered.
Ooh.
Not software rendered.
Listen,
I'm not a nerd.
Some people
You
know
get to
what a
explain
burn that is.
You get to explain that to Bob later.
Okay, we'll do that off, Mike. I'll show you some terrible artifacts of visuals.
So Albert is kidnapped by the Luigi Vampa gang, and they're just rough and ready. Apparently, Luigi really cares about timeliness, and Franz has until the sun rises in the morning to save Albert uh, until he's killed. And one would assume that this has happened several times, because Luigi Vampa is a named character by all the people who saw Franz that night at the club. Uh, the person who kidnapped Albert shows some kindness and friendliness toward Albert, Peppo. And
Hey, it's a Peppo. Hey.
Mm-hmm.
one of the only other named people. Like, you'd think that the strong chick would have a name. No. Who is really into whips and chains and branding, because the sun starts to rise and, it's essentially pay or die, and it looks like Albert's time is up because he gets taken out of his cage, handcuffed to a wall, and crazy, S&M lady is like, I'm going to brand you, as she tears open his shirt and has that hot sword getting ready to get him. And Peppo runs in and is like, no, you can't do this. This is mean. There's still time, even though, the sun's coming up. And, hot sword lady just throws Peppa to the side.
Okay,
The
now,
sun is
Unfortunately,
rising.
yeah,
hot sword lady or hot sword lady?
Yes.
hot sword lady. Brand lady.
You gotta have good branding.
Yeah, she's
Who was like, maybe you can join our group after I brand you. Because that's apparently the initiation that no one knows. It's at that point the Count and Franz show up. Actually, not quite. That's the point where the Count's bodyguards show up. And I have to admit, later episodes make me appreciate them a lot more than now, but they are just really efficient.
Yeah, they are some competent henchmen.
Because they take out Luigi's gang in like 5 seconds flat, while the Count goes against Luigi. And this is the first time where we see something close to fantasy / sci-fi. When Luigi throws his little dagger into the Count. Like, just straight into where his heart would be. And the Count's like, and as he pulls out the knife, then his face turns into some weird purple mask as he's like, I'm gonna eat you, if I had to guess. I don't know. We never really see what happens to Luigi, just I'm assuming it's bad.
Well, okay, so...
Like he's stabbing him in the eye.
Uh-huh.
Maybe.
Well, okay.
I'm not here to judge.
First of all, why him face have hat? Nope. Why him hat have face? That's my first question.
Money.
Point B.
It's a pretty purple.
The way he like leans in to stab Luigi is like, it is very much almost like leaning in to kiss him really quick. And so my brain just immediately went to Solid Snake voice, and it's like, oh, he's called Monte Cristo because he's bisexual. It's like, nope, okay, all right, well, okay, that's a joke for me, and I'm assuming people who aren't here.
That reminds me of a point in this episode I'll save to the end.
Okay.
I will join you on something related to that, Nick. All I heard in my head was Aaron Hansen. I'm going to get kiss.
So the Count saves Albert because, best bros. And they go to have some meeting with the Count. Even though Franz is really ticked off with Albert because Albert is acting like a douchebag that nothing really matters, and Franz slaps him.
Yeah.
When they go to have supper with the Count, they do a quite literal table part from each other.
Because like he's he's trying to play it off like kind of ribbon fronds a bit. He's like, oh geez, you couldn't get here any sooner. And like not only is he, naive to the ways of like real life out here on the streets of the moon, but he's also just like the most naive or just the most oblivious, because he does not realize that like, oh, my friend was actually super legit worried about me, so much so that he went to this guy he distrusted because that was his only way to like have a chance to save me. So it's like there's such a cute romance going on between Albert and Franz, and Albert has no idea.
No idea about it.
My note is just wake up, kid.
At which point, I don't feel like this episode ever really resolves their argument in a satisfying way.
No.
It just kind of, by the end of the episode, they're But neither here nor there. So, Albert, once again, is like, hey, is this your watch? And the Count's like, yeah, that's my watch. Would you believe I've been looking for it? Yes, Count. Yes, I believe you were looking for it because you knew exactly where it was.
How many times have they had dinner and lunches so far, and Albert said nothing about the watch?
You gotta have first dinner, second dinner, third dinner.
Oh, I don't think he knows about fourth dinner. He's naive. He doesn't know the way of the world, after all.
Fourth dinner is where you live, Moss, and you have the Taco Bell.
But don't worry. Instead of taking the watch back, he can keep the watch. He just has to introduce him to the Paris people. Because.
Yeah, so like specific. What is it? Because he's like saying like, oh, I was hoping to buy like a summer mansion over there, and maybe you could introduce me to your family, and that would be my first like friendly faces over there.
Which, in reality would be fine, but we've seen the Count. He's not a nice person. He's very manipulative.
Oh yeah.
No.
Bless you. That's essentially the end of the episode, is the Count going to Paris
to Earth,
hang out with the family.
No, there's one more gross thing that this episode ends on. And I'll have more to say about it later, but like this is where
Okay, yeah, as far as anime, this quote unquote joke goes in anime, this is probably like the most like sterile version of it.
I would agree with that, probably.
Here's the thing.
I'm thinking of later, but go ahead.
I don't think it's being played as a joke. I think that's actually the thing about it. I think the fact that like there's a funny shock moment, I think that is a byproduct of why the show is doing it. This is where like there's a thing like, oh, are you heading back to Paris now? And Albert's like, no, there's a new friend I made who maybe I want to spend a night with. And the Count's like, oh, you mean Peppino? Let me tell you a secret about Peppino. And like it's very obvious that the Count whispers in his ear like, she's actually a boy. And Albert just is like, what? I ain't falling for no dude. Which, bro, have you seen you and Franz? Yes, you are. This is beautiful love between these boys. Bring in a third beautiful boy. That would be the best thing to do. But instead, he like storms off and they fly back to Earth because he's so shocked.
Yeah.
It's not good.
No.
And I do think it gets worse, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up at the end. It's no
bueno.
That's a teaser for the conversation to come.
And speaking of teasers and end of the episode, before we move into episode 3, this is a great time to take a little break. So we'll be right back after this piece of the theme song that I play now.
Or else.
I'm the one who picked the show and picked these episodes. I watched the first half of the series. I wanted to watch the whole series before I picked episodes, but I managed to get halfway. And even though it's a chronological story that's being told, it was kind of hard to pick episodes because it did a lot of like cliff ending
Mhm.
cliffhanger endings on like one episode and then resolving it in the next episode kind of thing. And it was hard to find ones that would give you like a spicy piece of the story without like leaving a lot of it hanging. So it was hard to pick episodes.
I believe that because watching it, way the story is structured, as you're describing it, is exactly how and why it was hard for me with Megas Bride,
Yeah.
because it
And
does the
like
same damn thing.
yeah, and there's like a lot of threads going on that are all tied together. So it's
Hmm.
like things influencing each other and like but yeah. So for next episode we have episode 4, A Mother's Secrets. That is to say, so if you have any questions about like what's going on with the plot and stuff, feel free to ask. I can fill you in.
With this one, outside of how someone got hired, I think that's my only question.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's actually a good pickup because the Count is going to Albert's house in France. And apparently the regions matter because they really talk down about some areas, which I am not an expert on France, but as someone who lives in America, I could imagine that the Count of Chicago would try to talk down about the Count of San Francisco, being like, oh, it's that area.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone's got the like, oh, my region is the best kind of attitude.
yeah, it's the New York pizza, Chicago deep dish pizza argument for rich
Mhm.
people.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, I do think it goes like it is very much like a class defamation kind of thing, and it's just like, oh, if you're from that
Yeah.
part of that's
Oh,
where
yeah.
the poor people come from.
Well, specifically in this case, so Paris is in the northern part of France, and it's the more metropolitan region. And then southern France is where a lot of the rich people go to vacation. But Marseille specifically, which is the one that's most relevant in this episode, I believe, is on the southern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. And so it's very much like fisherman, like working man area, from what I understand. Um,
The proletariat.
yeah.
People who get their fingernails dirty, I would never associate with them. Everyone says.
Ew.
those. Yeah. And with the meal itself, Albert's mother just seems kind of weird when she interacts with the Count, even though Albert's dad is like normal-ish. He definitely gives off dad vibes.
Can we talk
Yeah,
about
so
Count's coat real quick?
And we talk about a lot of things real quick.
Yeah.
This whole dinner is a little unusual.
Can I just start with, because I if I don't do it now I'll forget. Count von Racing Car. Those racing car flames on his coat.
Oh my god.
I kind of want the coat now just to have it.
He's a fancy fellow.
Is that why I was getting Kentucky Fried Chicken vibes? Because he's got some like
Yeah.
pride on him. Oh.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, it's the KFC turbocharged Old Spice Count.
He's trying to be fancy.
I just want to talk about when Albert and the Count first enter the house, and we get those just absolutely fabulous looking giant statues that are directly out of an early PS2 dungeon crawler.
Yep.
I lost it there.
It's a view, okay? Those cost $59.99 on Amazon, okay?
They're cardboard cutouts. Look, they're
I mean,
plate metal cutouts. I don't know.
there's spray painted cardboard cutouts. They cost more. It's classier that way.
Oh my god, no. Cardboard cutouts would have more depth than the way these are rendered. Okay, anyway.
You're not wrong.
Because like the actual set piece of that scene is you can just see it on Albert's face. He's like, "Oh boy, golly gee, I hope my new friend and my parents get along." Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure at this point we have already seen the Count looking at a picture with clearly Albert's dad in it and kind of just mumbling like, "I'm gonna get you, sucker. Like, I think it's kind of already established that the Count is here to make friends in order to make friends go away.
What? In a story about revenge?
Mm-hmm.
What?
But just every time Albert's on the screen, I'm just like, oh, kid, you don't understand. It's like
They
Ralph
could've-
Wiggum, like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. But the opposite, he doesn't know.
He's not in trouble. He's just a means to someone else's violent, murderous ends.
Oh my
I
god.
genuinely feel bad for the dad because he kind of seems in this episode, a little unaware. While Mrs. the dad, she she knows the Count.
Please.
I feel.
Her name is Mercedes Acura Benz.
Mm-hmm. That's why he has the coat.
Ford.
Really, that's her name.
No. Well, her name is Mercedes, but it's a very French name. So Albert's parents, his dad is like the top general of the country.
He has a fancy hat we see later.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm very familiar. And then his wife Mercedes.
She was desirable to the Count, or to the Generalissimo.
Yeah, I mean, basically, tale as old as time.
Hmm.
But yeah, so if you're familiar with the story of the Count of Monte Cristo, you know what the relationships are between the parents and the Count going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not, aka Bob,
Nope.
would you like me to fill you in?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the woman that Edmond Dantes was in love with is Mercedes. And their friend group, including the general, framed him and had him imprisoned, and then she ended up marrying the general because she thought he was dead.
Mm-hmm.
But his journeys have changed him so much that he is not recognizable as Edmond Dantes, and of course he's going under a different name. So they don't know it's him.
I forget exactly how long he was locked away for, but never mind the wear and tear of a life that he's lived. But
Yeah,
after not seeing someone for a while, you're not going to recognize him necessarily right away.
it's been about 20 years at this point.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it had to be for reasons.
Mm-hmm. While they're at the dinner, like, we see more of the Count's vampirism, and it's just like, nope, I don't eat, I don't sleep. What do you do? And the answer
Take
is,
steroids,
yeah, vampire drug pills.
like the sports balls and the rich people's.
It's pretty much just a lush, that whole meal, except for when she says, "Did I offend you? You haven't eaten any of my food." And it's really irritating because she's like, "Try my special." Woman, you ain't cooked a day in your life. How is this your special?
It's special because she hired the person specially to make it.
Oh,
I found this recipe on Etsy, and
Oh,
Marie makes it the best.
but that's the thing. She has made that meal. She made it back in old country, which I guess was also France. But now her husband doesn't let her talk about her old life anymore, so she has to say, I've never cooked.
Yeah, it's old country where all the old recipes are from.
The recipe
Anyway.
of take what you caught that morning and stew it in a pot.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
this is bouillabaisse, which is like a seafood stew. And apparently she makes it very specially delicious.
Mm-hmm.
With love.
Is that what it is?
Like, I'm sure there's also an element of, like, if you're in, like, a fishing or even a port kind of village town, like, you probably can get your hands on different spices than might be available in other parts of the country, just because if there's, like, trade going on around you. So I would believe that, like, food from that region does have a very specific flavor profile that you might not be able to get in most of the rest of the country.
And so it tastes like lobster.
I hope so. Probably
Or
not.
whatever it is, what that was sticking out of that thing. Like 4 oysters.
Trilobite. It tastes like stewed trilobite.
It's got to be like 4 Pikmin in the pot.
It's something else. And the Count takes a sip of it with everyone staring in anticipation. He's like, yes, this tastes like memories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
memories.
Yep,
Then he goes on
bouillabaisse was originally a dish made by Marseille fishers using bony rockfish, which they were unable to sell to restaurants or markets. So yeah, it's one of those things that was poor people food until rich people decided that eating like poor people was fancy.
Because
It's tilapia.
it's exotic. The poor people eat things we never. It's like in Oran High School when she accidentally introduces instant coffee
Instant
to the club.
coffee,
Yeah.
yeah.
How could you bring that up? How dare you? But you're right.
Because I'm right. Hey,
I mean, yeah.
let me peek at our master list real quick. Okay, all right, okay.
I was not going to add it, but I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that's seen.
So the Count reminisces for a second, as only the Count can, talking about how it tastes like his childhood in Marseille. Is it?
Yep.
Except he talks about how he's been there, but this is also the first time he's supposed to have been there, according to what he told Albert. Red flag, but Albert is not the brightest bulb.
Yeah,
No.
he is like the Count is like talking through his teeth, trying not to let his true nature reveal, but like he is absolutely trying to like very subtly dig the knife into Mercedes. It's kind of great.
Like at the beginning when the mom and dad come down the stairs, like the Count goes full like Kill Bill, I zoom in, siren sounding, like, and Albert's like, hey Count, hey Count.
Hey Joe, do you want to do an abridged version of this, because I got ideas and you're on the same page as I am right now.
So supper ends, and everyone kind of goes their own way. I think it's the next day where we see Albert. No, we have the cleanup scene where we see that Peppo has been hired at the house. Now, how does that work out, Joe, that Peppo got hired here?
It's entirely coincidental. She left the gang. She went to go find a job. There was an opening. So she now works here as a maid.
This is my favorite character.
Okay, because my read was absolutely like she was working for the Count now, and like got a job there in order to again get another foothold in this family.
Yeah, I really thought that's what happened too. I'm with you on that page.
Oh, if that is the case, it isn't apparent within the 12 episodes that I rewatched. So,
and that's fair. Like it could be a misreading on my part, but yeah, absolutely. Just the way she was talking, he was talking. Sorry. Visual versus fact confuses the brain.
No, Peppo is a she.
Is she okay? Okay, cool. I hate to misgender someone. But that being said, Peppo, absolutely, their dialogue absolutely read to me as, no, I was hired here to stir the pot.
I mean, honestly, like if you had told me that the Count had also specifically orchestrated Albert's kidnapping on the moon and did it through Peppo being in the gang and sort of leading them to this target, because she did approach him. Let's not forget, she started it. I buy it.
Peppo,
I buy it.
Professional shit disturber.
Yeah,
and she does a good job of that. Like when she's working in the kitchen, she is easily the least professional, stuffing all the leftovers in her mouth as they're trying to clean. In the Gossip Hell's kitchen, pretty much. Did you see the way that the missus was looking at the Count? The Count's looking at the missus. Oh, tell me more. And then along comes Peppo. They're banging.
Yeah. Just as soon as she comes in, like, do it. Say the things that need to be said.
She's the blunt city person in all the nudie people town. They try to talk around things, and she just cuts to the thick of it.
I love her for that.
Later on, Peppo and Albert have an interaction where Peppo is trying on Mercedes' jewelry in her room. Prior to this, Albert had seen the Count looking at a picture. Or is that previous or post this scene where they meet in the bedroom? I think I may have had this backwards.
I think it was after dinner that the Count and the mom were having a chat on the balcony about Marseille. And then
And Albert
later,
kind of eavesdrops.
yeah, and then Albert sees his mom looking at a picture,
Mhm.
but he can't see what the picture is.
And then he meets Peppo trying on the jewelry in his mom's bedroom. And she's like, they probably know each other. It's in the picture. In fact, your mom has this locked drawer. Don't you wish you knew what was in it?
By the way, I'm real good at lockpicking. Apropos of nothing, if that would ever come in
Uh-huh.
handy for you, I can get into like anybody's drawers. Peppo.
Oh,
Best,
Peppo.
best type of personality and best class to roll? Absolutely.
You naughty Peppo, you.
Peppo this is where I realize that whatever the opposite of a Jiminy Cricket is, that's what Peppo is.
Yeah.
Just like
Pretty much.
a evil conscience just sticking around, being nearby, being like, hey, what if you stuck your nose in some business?
She is the devil on your shoulder that went to the other side of your opposite shoulder, brutally put down the angel, kicked it to the curb, and then just put like a scarecrow with the angel wings on it and voices it entirely. Same thing she does.
And like, so this is actually where like I realized the quote unquote twist with Peppo earlier was like why I don't think that was a joke. I think that was sort of like setting a theme, because like Peppo is like the evil Jiminy Cricket in that she is like devious, she is a shit stirrer, she is not to be trusted. There's like a lot going on where it's just like, oh, this person is like this person is untrustworthy, and like I feel like the point of like, oh, actually she's a dude or whatever is like that's where they start that. I don't think it was for the joke. I think it was to start letting you know that like, hey, Peppo is going to be sort of a like worse than mischievous. It's just going to seed doubt and a little bit of chaos and mistrust, and like just really add to making things worse. Whether she's working for the Count or not, it's just like, oh, she is going to be a sort of like terrorizing presence.
So in the original work of Count of Monte Cristo, there was kind of like a man at arms role, running errands for the Count. When we meet Peppo in this episode, I kind of, based on their dialogue, I assumed or read that as, you're this role here.
Mm.
And knowing nothing else about this series in particular and how it goes, again, I know some broad strokes, but nothing detailed. I I assumed that's what was going to happen here. I could completely be off base, but I want it to be that.
While we're talking about the cadre that the Count keeps around him, who is that really cool looking elf lady?
That's Haley.
She's the best.
She is the best.
I know nothing about her, but sometimes she stands next to the Count, but she's the best.
Yeah, I really regret like not being able to squeeze in more of her stuff in these episodes that I had to pick. But I decided to kind of focus on the main thread of the Mercedes Count angle.
Mm.
Yeah, she has her short scene where she's talking to the Count, where it's kind of blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
Not really blink and you miss it.
Well, I think it was a scene with her where we see the Count looking at the picture of Mercedes and the dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they're in the car on the way back.
In which they actually invited Albert and apparently his friends over. Don't worry, Peppo gave good advice on how Albert should dress.
Oh my god.
Like a Spanish matador. Or
Listen,
apparently a pirate.
I will not have you besmirch Peppa's good name and fashion choices. This was not at all a ploy on their part. This was not them just having fun at Albert's expense. This is genuine help, and I will not hear otherwise, even though I know better.
I totally believe the Count actually really digs this look.
I can believe it too.
Also, I just like that you ask, hey, Peppo, what is fashion? She's like, I know, I got your hookup. Flintlock pistol in the waistband, real gangsta style, like Beppo. Where you from?
I'm
I'm
just picturing
feeling-
she goes to
Go
the
ahead.
local costume shop. It's like, what is the worst you got? Perfect.
I feel like she
Perfect.
went down to whatever future space seafood restaurant was there. Give me your uniform for your mascot character. Just give it to me now. Here's like $20. Just
Oh,
give it to me.
the space
I'll have
one
it back
drops
dry
over.
clean it.
Red lobster. Okay.
Red mobster.
It was a red lobster. Okay, what happened next?
So yeah, the episode 3 is more of an introduction to Albert and Franz's like little friend group. But we see some of them here as they all go to visit the Count.
And yeah, it's a photographer, a football player.
No,
and
the
Albert.
large one is Maximilian. He is a teddy bear, and he has recently returned from a war combat. He's a military dude.
He is a friendly one.
Mhm.
I will grant you that.
Wait, his name is Max?
Maximilian.
Okay, because I'm dropping an image into a chat because when I saw this guy, this is who I thought of, and this is a dude named Max from the game Advance Wars, and I'm just like, oh, a brick wall of a man? Okay, yeah, all
These
right,
pictures are essentially the same.
Yeah.
the same picture.
Pretty much.
Max subsides also on steroids, but for his job.
It was at this point I realized I screwed up.
What happened?
Well, this can be an off-the-cuff type of thing, but I did you know what I did last week?
What?
No.
Yes.
Go on. I mean, I kind of know, but go on.
I have a question for Joe when we get to final credits because of a scene in the actual episode I watched, not episode 11.
I knew it when I looked at Crunchyroll.
Okay.
I was like, that's a weird episode that I didn't leave it
I was
off.
gonna say, so you saw what I watched on Crunchyroll, but we'll get to that point. But let me say that Max does make a reappearance, which makes me feel like I like him better.
Yes.
Uh,
He's also in the episode you were supposed to watch, so.
Yeah, Bob.
if while I'm talking, you guys want to kind of overview episode 7, 7 rhymes with 11.
I didn't watch 7. I
That-
just saw that you watched it.
Oh,
I'm
that's
Anyway.
like,
good.
surely he'll figure it out.
Oh, I was on a roll. I watched all 4 episodes in one run.
No, that's a good episode, though. I mean, they're all good episodes.
In fact,
But
because
actually,
I reviewed episode 11, the notes,
yeah.
and it kind of explains episode 7
it's connected,
future. That's
yeah.
weird. So I could help answer questions for episode 11.
Yeah.
That might be useful because I know my first note for episode 11 is, holy shit, it's hit the fan.
But to continue on essentially with the rest of episode 4, Albert and his trio of friends, Mo, Larry, and Curly, are going to visit the Count. And apparently the Count lives on what they call the bad side of town. Maybe not bad, but just very
The not gauche.
average. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
just
the
like-
apartment buildings is where the Count decided to stay.
Well, this isn't extravagant. That's weird.
Yep. So they go inside. They meet. He's actually a named character, and I can't think of his name, but one of the bodyguards.
Oh, yeah, this one's not Bertuccio. This is the other one.
Somehow I left it out of my name, or my note.
His name is Joe Cool.
Pretty much. I love that they are fighting bodyguards who also have super cool manners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're like combat butlers, and they always have their midriff showing, which I appreciate.
No complaints here.
I knew there would be a non-zero amount of appreciation on that one as soon as I saw it.
And they're like, hang on, we're going to go down now. And, like all of regular people would be like, say what? And the whole room that they're standing in is an elevator that goes down to the Count's actual house, a land made of pure gold.
As you keep in your apartment. Normally, in the next to storage.
Well, okay.
New money.
Well, he made it himself, just like he made the golden for the palace.
The sub-dimension.
Even before we go into the Golden Palace Pocket Dimension basement, I do want to point out that the front doors of the apartment building, all the door handles are 2 feet above everybody's head, and I don't know if that is another weird like rendering thing, or if it's just like, oh yeah, no, the giants used to live here, but ever since they died out, all of the like working people have moved in.
I'm pretty sure this is like a weird stylistic rendering thing.
It's a power move.
They all use hooks to open up doors.
As we all know,
how you keep people inside.
In the future, all the pores, we are all shorter. Therefore, we can't reach up to take the door.
It's because of the malnutrition from not being able to afford food. Yeah,
exactly.
That's science.
That's well, God, Ron Burgundy just popped in my head the second you said that. But yeah, no, that's absolutely what happened, and that's why the Count gets it, because the Count is tall.
So they all go down to the sub-basement of gold, where they're ooh and ah, and how was the light coming in through that window in the basement? No one ever asked that question.
I love gold.
And the Count's there kind of gives Albert a gentle ribbing about his pirate outfit, and is like, what pirate is without a cutlass? And because as the Count is prone to do, just gives Albert a sword.
We draw swords on each other in this house, typically as gift giving.
At this point,
like he straight up looks like he's going to kill him, but nope.
It's just a gentle razz. At this point, the Count has given Albert so many gifts that he is either, like using him and trying to like pull the wool over his eyes and get into his good graces, or the Count legitimately has a crush on Albert. It could be either one at this point.
I hope, like, the Count is obviously super rich. He has a land made of gold. He never asks for that 50 million back, and he just gives luxury gifts. He's pretty much like the Bob Barker of France right now, or Oprah.
Sometimes the road to revenge requires a little bit of expenditure, Bob.
And that is that episode. Episode 4, A Mother's Secrets.
Yeah, the next episode has a duel over shark water, so...
What? Hold on. Are they jumping the shark?
No.
Oh!
Do they have to stab the roses off of each other's outfits?
No, they're
does
an actual duel for honor.
Is it on a sky castle above shark-infested waters with sky sharks?
No, it's on the prow of the ship over the water, which has sharks in it.
Oh yeah. So I guess our storytelling is going to get a little pan-dimensional now, but like I know in the next episode we learn that this golden pallet is actually on a boat.
Yeah.
In the pocket dimension, yeah.
You really, I'm not even gonna lie, like, okay, guy has I Love Gold dimension in his sub-basement. It's on a boat?
It's a golden palace houseboat.
Also,
it's exactly one shot
on the dimension.
Uh-huh.
I was just thinking it's anime BS. And I mean, still is, but like, this is just a super basement.
He's got that Wonka Vader money. That's new.
Oh my god. Wait, hold on. Did Steven Spielberg come up with it? Did Johnny Depp get cast as...
Oh,
Yeah, I wasn't going to give you the good one.
There's a certain era of Johnny Depp that I could see being cast in this role. Not now.
This is, of the episodes I watched, not a bad episode. Like, it does a lot of bricklaying.
Yeah.
While also building up to questions that I'm assuming are answered. Hopefully.
Yeah, I get the feeling that a lot of episodes of the show, I imagine it strikes an interesting balance between like slow burn, because it is about this like creeping terror revenge plan, but at the same time it sounds like so many plot lines start getting woven that it's just like, okay, it's not moving quickly, but there's so much going on at once that it ramps up the tension.
And that's kind of why I chose episode 11, because that's when like some of the dominoes start falling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
So the question is, do we want Bob to explain episode 7 first, or do we want to do episode 11 and then back jump to 7?
let's do it like
like-
that.
Oh, we're gonna do that. I was gonna say I like chronology.
I was gonna say I could explain episode 7 and have the boys say, "This is very interesting."
I mean, I'm kind of down for that.
Yeah. All right. What do you got? Give us the shortest version.
Episode 7 kind of introduces us to Eloise. Is that her name? The lady with a little ring.
Oh yeah, yes, Eloise.
Yes, with a little bit of poison in it.
Go on.
Oh, it's the thing that stands out most about this episode to me is Eloise, or the final scene. The final scene is horrible, but it also goes a little bit into Albert and Eugenie's relationship.
Yes.
Because
So
Eugenie is around because she's meeting up with someone to go out to lunch, and I think Franz had invited her over, saying you should spend more time with the lady who you're engaged to. Which, by the way, listeners, I think it was mentioned in passing in the first episode. Albert's in a arranged marriage with Eugenie for the sake of France.
Yes. Arranged marriage.
Sake.
yeah, you know those nobles always pairing off their kids. Franz is also in a betrothed marriage to a girl named Valentine.
Oh.
Do you think those fiancés know their boys are cheating on them?
Well, the thing is, this is where I fall in love with Max more, because Max sees how France treats Valentine, kind of like it's an arranged marriage, and Max genuinely has a love for Valentine. He's like, you really should be treating her a lot better, and Franz is like, why would I? Because this is just something I'm supposed to do. You're supposed to get married for money.
Business reasons.
That in their world, marriage doesn't mean a thing, and Maximilian kind of disagrees.
Yeah, like
They have
marriages are more for like politics and contracts.
Mm-hmm.
It was essentially an episode around Valentine and Eugenie having a day. Boys kind of hanging out. Eloise and the Count meeting up. Because the Count is like, hey, you like poisons. And Eloise is like, no, that's straight up how he puts it, toxicology.
Yeah.
He's into toxicology.
A little more context. Valentine's father is remarried to this woman Eloise, and they have a son who's like 6 or 7 or younger.
And things go great for him. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, of course. But yeah, so she's concerned because the grandfather of the family is like really old and like can barely move or speak or anything, and he's like, they take care of him upstairs, or Valentine mostly takes care of him upstairs. But Eloise is concerned that the grandfather is leaving all his wealth to Valentine and not to her little boy, because it's the second child.
That's right. He's in this one
second
too.
Marriage.
You would love this kid so much because he just calls out stuff like he's the audience. Why are you rude?
He is a little
he has
shit.
Fangs. He's a vampire.
Yeah.
Peppa 2.
No, he's a little brat.
He's horrible.
Yeah.
But he speaks my thoughts.
So she already has this in her mind of like wanting to protect her son's future and stuff, and kind of getting Valentine out of the picture. So yeah, then the Count meets her in her greenhouse and is like, you're into toxicology, I see.
No, I am not just into medicine. Oh, it's okay. medicine and toxicology are pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, you got to know what kills.
You have all these plants in here that just happen to also be poisonous.
Oh, look, belladonna. Oh, by the way, I have this ring. This wonderful ring, which is called, I forget the exact name of it, but Queen in the past, or Princess, used it, and he presses the stud, and the springed needle comes out.
Okay, yeah.
It's the Gom Jabbar.
Yeah.
And she's all interested,
Dune 2 in
and the
theaters
Count
now.
being the Count is definitely setting things up, and he leaves. And the scene that I'm referring to at the end of the episode is
Yeah.
she's she's pleasuring herself with the ring.
Oh.
I mean, I'm not here to shame anybody.
I was not expecting that, and it's nice to
Yeah.
know that that was not the episode we were going to be watching.
Yeah.
Because I had so many questions, like, why is this the last one?
I'm not gonna lie. Of all the things on my list of that's probably unexpected, that was nowhere on it. So
Yeah,
that was
but-
super.
all of the women and the wives are like super into the Count.
I mean, I can kind of see that being a thing.
Yeah, who doesn't love blue people? No.
I mean, I'm sure part of it is just that like he's the new shiny thing, and like they've already, you know, slept with everyone in their social circle anyway.
Look, everyone, the new ride. I'm sorry.
So yeah, so that actually plays into events that happened in episode 11.
Yeah, because okay, Nick, you're not alone on this, right?
So now you know how Heloise, because like I said, I read the snippet on it. Now you know how Heloise got the ring.
Yeah, because I remember seeing that ring, like, oh, where'd that come from?
Yeah, it's just like it starts and there's a lot like it starts with them on the on like the sidewalk, right?
Yeah, like they're breaking out of the joint.
They're just outside of Valentine and Eloise's the Dangler house. Or no, not the Dangler house. Oh fuck, what's the family name?
The Dangler House is a great name for a British pub.
Yeah.
Villefort. That's the Villefort Manor.
Of the Massachusetts Villeforts.
Of the Parisian Villeforts.
Not to be confused.
But yeah, so Albert is on his way to that house because he found out that his friends are busting Valentine out, who has been in like a coma because she was poisoned.
Uh-huh.
What?
Yeah.
Just a little coma poisoning as a treat.
As you do.
Between friends.
But like, yeah, so they've got this passed out girl on the street that they're loading into the car, and then is that her mom who comes out? Is that Eloise?
Yeah, the blonde woman with the small child, the small boy.
And it's just like, hey, don't do that. And then Franz is like, no, we have to save her. And then immediately she collapses from just a minor case of poisoning.
Okay, it's like, because again, I kind of like, I was like, everything's happening so fast to that. I'm like, is everyone here just like super dehydrated?
Well, and then we get into a straight up like Italian job car chase action scene.
Thank you. I kept wanting to put Italian job, but in my notes, like French connection. I know this is wrong.
But yeah, I was not, just like when I was watching the Tetris movie, I was not expecting a car chase to be part of this series.
Yeah.
Yeah, Villefort was on his way there with the police because he heard they had previously tried to get Valentine out of the house, and he heard they were trying again, so he is racing back with the police. Because he's like the head judge, I think, is his position.
Oh, that makes sense.
Good old corruption in politics.
Yeah.
But just my favorite part is the way that this car chase ends is the boys in the car with the coma girl drive past Albert on his moped
Mhm.
going the other way, and
Rip.
Franz screams out, "Albert, block the road!" And apparently what Albert hears is, "Beef it, squid!" because he immediately just is like, "What?" and falls off his bike, and his bike slides into the cop cars and explodes.
I mean,
Thus ending the chase, I guess.
he did the thing.
Uh-huh.
He blocked the way with his body and bike, rip bike.
In the most dorkish way possible, accidentally, but like he was not trying to end the chase as instructed. He just
I think this is the
He's
highest
dork.
we've ever seen Albert's competency in this series so far.
Oh,
He did what he was supposed to do accurately,
he's one of
even
them
though it may have
idiot
been
savants.
unintentional.
Yeah.
All I have after that is my notes is Peppa back disturbing the shit.
Oh, what did Peppa do?
Disturb the shit. I'll
You're
let
an
Nick.
angel.
I'll let Nick take the head on this, but
I got bad news.
Okay, are we both kind of confused on this one?
No, my notes. Getting later into the show, I was having less notes on it. Take that
Okay.
as whatever kind of spoiler you want for final thoughts. But my notes are basically beef it squid. Oh, his golden palace is on a boat. Oh, I'm glad his relationship with his fiance is getting better. Lol, whoops. That's my
Like,
notes for this episode.
I'm not gonna lie, most of my notes are just confused, like what is going on, trying to make leaps in logic of what's going on here. At one point I have, because I refused to type out the word Mercedes, car did not marry for love, tale as old as time, this is only news to Renard, her husband.
Or some of the things that
so
confused
like
you.
a couple of things fall apart in this episode. So we have the car chase, and we have Villefort confronting Eloise, because like of course he brings her inside, and then like she's in a short coma for a bit. But then he confronts her, and he's like, "So when did the Count give you that ring, huh?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know what you're talking about." But he's just like confronts her with the poison and everything. And he was like, who else were you going to murder? Was I on your list? And she confesses that, yeah, she was going to murder everybody so her son could get money.
It's a real good Columbo finale. The villain finally breaks a moment. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, I was just go ahead. I'll wait.
No, I was gonna move on with the scene. So.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like my notes are like confused for several points until I get to the essentially like, okay, blonde rich guy's daughter was taken by the gang. Cool. And then next thing I have is like Franz suggesting to Albert at some point they were discussing this once they were in a more secure location that maybe the Count was responsible for poisonings or a poisoning or poisonings. It was again a little kind of ambiguous at that point. And Albert very much on the side of no, not our Count.
God.
Yeah, because Albert did see the Count and Eloise together in the greenhouse, like talking.
And that now that I have that with Bob's context, like I have a bridge here. Yeah. And then I get like something about again because there's a lot of just assumption I know names at this point with what's happening. So you're gonna get a lot of just I'm sorry, very bad descriptions. I've got like blonde lady has recovered and her hubby has accused her of being a murderer because the poison was clearly planted. ? So it's like okay, I'm really lost.
Yeah, like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was. So I had the soul read on that apparently. And then it's like, oh, she did do a poisoning. Okay. Like I know my notes are gonna sound very flippant. I enjoyed the chaotic energy of this, but I was also completely lost the whole way through. So it's just really me like I'm just making statements as I watch this, and they're like, oh, okay, here's a reveal. Okay, cool. And apparently, I don't know. I feel like a failure here because I couldn't tell you who was doing this. But okay, I guess I'll poison myself. And then okay, I'll let you. Nah, just kidding. I'm gonna lock you away like my own humanity.
Yeah, she was like, get away from me, or I'll drink it. And he's like, he just stands there.
It's just like, do it.
Like,
won't.
okay.
God, it's such like I felt so bad because like her plans fell apart, and I've only seen her once before, but she already wasn't that great. But like clearly this dude is worse, and I'm like, what if her revenge did work though? And meanwhile, the Count's over in the corner, just like, nah, fam, I gotcha. Let me cook.
And then my next note is possibly the greatest summation of everything we've said so far. Albert is a dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Albert goes to visit the Count, and on his big gold boat,
Mm-hmm.
once again citing I Love Gold, the SS I Love Gold. The Count says, things happened to the blondes, and they had it coming. Go figure. Who knew?
Yeah, because Albert's like, man, why are such bad things happening to the Villefort family? It's so fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
And the Count's like, oh, maybe they deserve it.
Yeah, and then the Count says, like, there are no coincidences, only fate and will. I'm like, well, you're not necessarily wrong. But when you take action...
Tell me you're doing all the bad things without telling me you're doing all the bad things.
I was gonna say, Albert then sees on his arm, on his hands, on his knuckles, tattooed on the right fate, on the left will. Oh. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have later. I have the fiance is saying she's got a gig at a local opera house with the orchestra.
Yeah, previously, because Eugenie has known Franz and Albert since they were little. They used to be like a little trio of troublemakers. And there's been previous conversations between her and Albert about, their relationship as fiancés and like what's expected of them and what they really want out of life. And she really loves playing the piano, and she just wants to perform music. So she apparently now has this opportunity to play at the opera house for a show, and is really excited about it. And Albert's really excited about it for her.
Yeah, like in my notes here, I get the general impression like he is about letting her do what she wants / needs to do for herself. I think that's pretty cool. So it's like, sucks as arranged marriage, but I've heard of worse.
Yeah, no, like they are still friends. They've been friends for a long time.
Well, also like I definitely got the read that it was a much colder relationship between them, at least for Albert, I guess, because it was arranged.
It had been, yeah, like previously it's been pretty rocky for a number of reasons. But this was like the first step of them like finally kind of coming together as like a couple, like starting to head in that direction.
Or at least actually being like nice and respectful and encouraging each other.
Ugh.
Let's see. And then I've got
oh, don't worry, it goes terribly in the next episode.
Oh, I can't
episode
imagine.
7, they weren't too thrilled with each other, so.
Yeah, I now have, after this, like, Franz found something on Space Google, but we're left to figure out what that is. Clearly nothing good. And then Eugenie got a bunch of golden flowers. And then Albert comes home to find out, hey, guess what? Not engaged after all. Who's a happy camper?
Yeah, her dad is Danglers, Baron Danglers, who is like, I forget his title, but he's like the big bank dude who's all about money and stuff like that. So yeah, there's another figure who he thinks now is a better match for her, just like standing wise. So the engagement has been called off, dun dun dun, which is a big deal.
Rich people and their forced drama. But yeah, that's essentially where my notes end. It's like, there's just a lot of chaos and confusion. I'm about it. Some crazy things happen I wasn't expecting to see. I'm like, cool, love it, keep it up. Still lost, but I'm here for the ride.
The only other note I have about this episode is somewhere in the middle of everything going on. I guess it's after the car chase, but like we get this just like very short scene of, and I guess now hearing some of what happens in episode 7, this makes more sense, but like this very quick, quiet moment of Maximilian caring for Valentine in some hideaway location somewhere, and just like
they went to Marseille.
Oh, okay, but
that's where all the boys live.
Wait, hold on, because I was going to say the thing that actually caught me about this scene is this is where, so like the camera zooms in on like the front of this building at an angle, and the building has one of those, like it looks like a wood etched kind of, nice relief letters signs as the awning, but it doesn't. It is a flat, it is Photoshop, free transform, flat, rotated perspective texture. And I laughed so hard I had to rewind the show because I was missing things because I was off my chair laughing so hard. It was just like, oh, that is, you can't, my boy, this was in a time before normal mapping. I was just, that's what I really took away from this episode.
It was a less civilized time.
But yeah, if actually that scene is taking place over in Marseille, that makes a lot of sense because that's the poorer side, so they could not afford the bump mapping for the storefronts.
I wasn't on that line of thought until you said that. It's so much better for me. Oh my god,
it's good. That's a good little touch. It's that attention to detail that really, really makes the show come alive.
Yeah, no, that was. Oh man. Oh, I'm gonna have fun with that later.
Speaking of later, I think it's time to get into some of our final thoughts. Talk about what we thought as a whole. Before we get into any real final thoughts, we have not addressed the visual style of this show. We should speak on that.
Where we were waiting for final thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, I was waiting. I'm sitting here. There's a reason I've been kind of quiet.
Okay. All right. Let's go. Open up.
No. I want to see what you got. Go, Bob.
All right. This art style was most definitely not for me.
It's a lot.
It is, like, I've seen it in passing. When I described it to my boyfriend, it was like, oh, you mean like the Adventures of Gumball? I was like, well crap, kind of.
I would like to see the Count of Monte Cristo appear in Gumball in space, but okay, that's a separate story.
When I first started watching it, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, and it just looked like a bunch of floating heads.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started paying attention, once you get into it, once you get adjusted, it's much easier. It's almost like the artist got, I wouldn't say lazier, but it's less finessed the later the episodes, I guess. I don't know if it was because they weren't in Carnival, but it was really bright to start off with, and very, I wouldn't say jarring, but popping.
There was a lot of like clashing patterns.
And it was only the main characters that had the, what I call, wallpaper style.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's not the name of the art style, and it's not that it's a bad art style. It's just not for me.
Not your jam.
It was hard for me to follow initially. It took them going out of dark area and, like you said, bright clashing style. Once we got to Paris, it was much easier. I could appreciate that the hairstyle had lines in it, even though it was static. It was great, but that first episode,
yeah. I feel like it's almost worse because a thing that I would notice is like it when you want to just like do like a mask over a static texture, that makes sense, but there are moments where the texture inside somebody's clothes or whatever jumps in position like as they're turning, so it seems like they were almost like, oh no, we need to move the texture to stay in line with where they're moving on screen. But it's just like, no, that actually makes it worse because now not only do you have this really complex texture on screen amongst a whole bunch of others, but now also things are like jumping around, and it's just like, yeah, no, the basically episode 1's Moon Mardi Gras with this art style is like instant photosensitivity warning. Moon Gras.
And I think it's, for whatever reason, it bugged me that it was only the main characters in the first episode, and then following episodes, it was most characters had the, what was it called, Chuck?
The Art Nouveau.
Nouveau style. of the
Nouveau
static
riche.
behind them.
Yeah, like each character is consistent throughout the series.
Oh, absolutely. There were
Like,
points where I could see what's his name, Albert,
yeah,
wearing the same clothes, the plaid pattern.
yeah.
The only one that I really like, I'm very much with you, Bob. Like, this was, it's I respect it as a very interesting style, but I did not find it pleasant to look at. It kind of made it a little, especially early on, except for that elf lady, the Count's
she did
secret
look-
girlfriend, because she had the star hair, and also she never moved. So in that sense, I think she's maybe the best looking character in the show.
I didn't mind the Count either. I thought that it worked for him. And I stand by, once we were off of the moon, it was easier for me to follow.
You've seen some of the shows I've presented, and the ones that I've said are closer to my favorite tend to have more definitely defined style, definitely a more clean and definitive and solid style. And for what it's worth, this art style, I have encountered it time and time again, and I have never enjoyed it. That being said, for some reason, and I couldn't tell you why, I kind of dig it here, and there is no logic to it. Like, I've sat there, arguably, like every little clip I've seen is like, oh, I'm gonna hate this. I can't watch this because it's gonna distract me too much. But for whatever reason, sitting here having to commit to the 4 episodes I watch, I'm like, no, go on. I'm gonna let you do your thing. Don't lose me. If you go, you're gonna have to do something to prevent. I don't know what it's gonna be. Something's gonna lose me, so don't do it. And for what we saw, it didn't lose me. I'm like, huh. I don't know why it really works for me here, but it does. Maybe because in my head, it just works out. It's like, the Count of Monte Cristo, this classic pre-modern era revenge story, now set in the future with some of the definitely a choice style of animation here for color and clothing options. Like, okay.
And like, I think that is a part of it, right? Because like it is a style choice that fits with like themes of the show, because when we're looking at this upper class, they are very like gaudy and ostentatious and kind of chaotic with everything going on below the surface as it gets revealed. And like I would imagine that's part of why it's only on like our main characters, is because it is sort of like it is sort of unpleasant to look at, but also you can't look away in a way that I think some of these characters are supposed to be. Maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but I think it works on that level.
You might be right. Like, I don't know if that was intentional, but I think that's what it is now that you say. It's like, it's so over the top and garishly unpleasant, but it works considering the subject matter. If this was just, I don't know, pick any other anime we watched from our list, and you throw this art style in it, I'm walking away from that show. I'm never touching it again because it doesn't match up. But something about it works here for me,
Like,
and I think it's that garish over the topness because it matches what's being done here.
I think you could get away with a little bit of it in Carol and Tuesday.
Maybe
like a Bakano as well.
Yeah, okay,
a little bit.
But I'm saying like a 1-to-1 equal usage.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, nothing else could pull off this.
Yeah,
Loud.
but it does it. Yeah, I hate Loud, but man, I love it on this. and it's just one of those like, huh. And I'm kind of speechless for it. It's like, everything about me that I know about me says, no, I'm never going to accept it for this. And yet here I am.
And yet. Okay, let's get into our overall thoughts on the show. Bob, lead us off.
I wish I could feel more positive with my description. I feel like I will say I do not like Seinfeld. I've not seen a single episode of It's Always Sunny. I don't think I'd like that show either. And this show kind of follows that trend. There's no one here with a redeeming quality. Our protagonist is a moron who's being led by a person who's manipulative. All the families are negative and horrible. The only person I have to cheer for is Max. And I get a feeling we kind of see something bad happen to him.
Bob, may I ask? I would like to present my client, Peppa. What about them?
Let me evidence to the court. Let's refer back to this episode. Look at Peppo. They seem like a opposite of Jiminy the cricket.
Yeah.
How is that a positive character? And there is nothing wrong with that type of character, being the vice character, the one who is,
Yeah, stirs the pot.
But to have the main character not realize that, like, Albert is quite possibly the dumbest person in all the world.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Hands down. Like, he should not be allowed out of the house. I understand why now. Because his parents understand that he will just fall for any trick in the book.
His parents should have named him Skinner because of how they kept him in a box.
Ooh.
That's for all my psych undergrads out there.
I have good news about Max.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
He gets a happy ending.
Does he get to stay with Eugenie?
Valentine, yeah.
Valentine, yes. Thank you.
Yep,
Because
they
they
get
have
married.
such a moment. But I feel like that's... I never read the book, so I can't say how this compares to Monte Cristo, and people who enjoy the story would probably enjoy this. But as one who has not read, I find all the characters not great. Most interest I have is seeing how the Count is going to mess with people.
Yeah, it's definitely a story for people who are in it for, okay, how is this revenge going to get carried out?
Like I said, says something about me.
Also, Haiti is great, and I wish I could have shown more of her.
But that's kind of my opinion.
I am kind of exactly there with you. Like, so this is where my sort of Columbo comparison comes in, because like in a good episode of Columbo, you spend the most time with this character that you like learn to hate. God, that government agent in The Shape of Water, where Del Toro, master of the craft, lets you know everything you need to know in order to completely love hating this character when he shows him washing his hands before using the urinal. That's masterclass right there. But like, and then you learn to hate this person, and then we introduce the monster, and we celebrate this evil person, getting comeuppance. Like that's one of my favorite genres of shows. Where I think the show messes up is Albert, because like Cinnamon Roll Too Good for This World, he like, regardless of the family he comes from, he like is he a child of the wealth and privilege? Absolutely. Does he know anything? Does he know enough to really exploit that or use that to bad and selfish ends? I don't think so. Like, he is somebody who does not deserve the terror going on around him. If he was not in this show and it was more of like watching all of the bad people like panicking as their schemes start falling apart, I think it would be great. But I think because we have Albert and the show is like, he's the main character, we're sort of framing this around like not even his tension of are things going okay or not. It is entirely the like horror movie thing where the audience knows that the monster is in the kitchen, but the character does not. And it's just like, it is not tension for Albert that we are, resonating with. We have a tension for Albert versus everything around him and his baby's day out adventure where he doesn't realize all the terror going on around him. And it's like, layer that with the all of the stuff of like Like, this is a show about, like, oh my god, is this boy going to get eaten alive by wolves or not, or what? Like, that kind of, for me, that takes the fun out of the revenge plot comeuppance that I usually love so much. And, like, I don't know. It is. I was trying to remember after watching these if there was an Albert character in the original, because I remember that being a very, like, third person omniscient kind of narrator, in a way that even if a character like him existed, it was not.
I checked. He did exist. He was not a teenager.
Okay. But yeah, there's, I don't know, there's just basically.
It's definitely a smaller role where he's just kind of used as a step in the revenge story.
But, like, watching this show as, like, this kid who is too dumb to deserve any of this bad stuff getting used and sent on a path to having his world destroyed is not really enjoyable to watch. Plus everyone else we could be hanging out with is a terrible person, and they're not getting ruined fast enough for my taste. And you add the sort of interesting but, like, physiologically disturbing art style to it, and, like, I've found this whole show to be kind of, like, on one hand I love it, but I do think it is a very unpleasant watch. Like, I'm so interested in it, but I don't find it fun to watch, even if I like the story going on and all of the ideas in it and characters and such. It's weird. Negative gestalt.
Well, here I am. Last horse in. As my way. I enjoy Shakespeare's comedies and the tragedies. And I gotta say, sometimes tragedy is just good for the soul, but I don't mean it like that. I mean, sometimes you just need a story that tells something that's not always happy at the end. Or isn't necessarily pleasant, because sometimes art imitates life, and that's catharsis in its own
I
way.
will say that the ending for the show is, I don't know if happy's the right word, but, like, positive.
Yeah. Okay, so Joe, I'm going to make a comment on the source material, not necessarily this. If I remember correctly, and like I said, it's been about a decade since I last read this. If I remember correctly, Mercedes had a child in the source material, and the child, spoiler for a very, very old book, was actually the Count's son. It wasn't, for the majority of the story, it's like, oh, the Count assumes it was the general's son, but instead it turned out to be his. And basing what Joe just confirmed for me, this relationship may not be exactly the same here. So there are some liberties taken here, and that makes it interesting to me.
I think in this, it's still more that Albert looks up to the Count as, like, wants to, like, evoke that sort of vibe and approach to life. And
Oh
the
my
Count
God.
and the Count starts seeing sort of his old self in Albert.
His younger, less corrupted self.
Yeah.
Less blue and less pointy teeth.
Yes. The me
Downgrade,
that was.
IMO.
I know.
You don't know. He could still grow those out. Just
fangs
without all the... Yeah. Just without all the angst. But that being said, like, I appreciate that there's enough, at least subtle differences, even if I'm wrong in what I remember about the original Count of Monte Cristo. There's enough difference here of bits here and there that we've seen so far that have me interested to actually watch this. In fact, I'll be honest with you, Joe, the only reason I haven't finished the show already, because I've had the time, is because I wanted to discuss this first.
Same. And I was going to rewatch, like, the rest of it, and I was like, no, we got to talk about it first.
Because I was very curious to see what others had, but I also didn't want, I was actually also trying to avoid Bob potentially picking up the wrong episode or saying, oh, this is where Chuck stopped, so this is the right episode.
I will say the episode I watched was interesting. and oddly had a good start and a good end.
And I will also say this too. The first 3 episodes that we watched were enough to kind of say, yeah, sure, I'll probably watch this here and there. But honestly, between where episode 4 left off and episode 11 began, there was enough chaotic energy and whiplash. I'm like I said, I think I may
It's a
have mentioned
lot
this here.
less. It's a lot less whiplash when you actually watch the
Well,
episodes.
right, but I think I've said it here. Like sometimes the best way to get me into a book series, an ongoing book series, or even a TV show is don't give me necessarily always the first episode or the first book. Sometimes you just gotta drop me in after something has happened, something significant has happened, and there's like the fallout or the
Mm.
chaos immediately ensuing after it. Because if that makes me interested to go back and know what's going on, that's a good enough sell sometimes. Not always, but I'd say it works more often than it doesn't.
Mhm.
And I mean, and I would say that's observable by the fact that growing up when we all did more or less, you didn't always catch the first episode of the anime running on Adult Swim or Toonami or the Midnight Run. So sometimes you just had to say like, I'm here now, I guess.
Which is kind
So
of the point of this show anyway.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so I'm in this not just to watch it through again, but also to see what's different and what's the same, and just kind of embrace like there's room for enough here to be different than the source material
Mhm.
that this can stand well enough alone, well enough alone on its own without
Mhm.
having to be totally dependent for a one-for-one on the original.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said in the intro, like the ending kind of becomes its own thing. And also,
Mhm.
since it is only a 24 episode series, it's relatively easy to just watch through it all.
I love that too because this absolutely has like that mid 90s early 2000s like here we are like a 25, 26 episode series and that's it.
Yeah, it's like here is the story, beginning, middle, end, the end.
Like for
And
for everything I said before, like I think I might actually watch the rest of this show. It's just going to be as that sort of like second screen. As long as I don't watch it too closely, it won't upset me too much, or won't hit you with the motion sickness. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff in here to catch up on. There's action. There's events.
yeah, I'm not lying. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. Once we're done here, I'm going to figure out what I'm doing for dinner and then just watch this.
Love it.
This also made me want to rewatch or reread the book again.
Yeah, that's kind of where I want to go. Is like I don't want to look, and I've tried very hard not to look at even like a cliff notes of the Count of Monte Cristo because I want to see what it does, and then I want to look at what was different, and then kind of have like a formalized opinion on and both together and separate, as it were.
I just want to go watch Old Boy now.
I will summarize my opinion with I will probably not rewatch this.
I will.
It did not tickle my fancy.
I will also say, Joe, kudos because this show going into it with its art style had a lot working against it. So you picked all the right episodes to just get the hook.
I agree. These were excellent episodes. That even
Thank you.
though I messed up one, I could see your line of thought.
And 7 actually was one of the ones I was considering anyway. So
I cannot stress enough. Again, I know I mentioned the cast, but Peppa is probably just my character's like this is the insert character for everything I have to say or feel about this for what I've seen so far. So that makes it extra enjoyable just to have that voice there.
You know what? We didn't even really mention in episode 11, like we really see the breakdown between Mercedes and the General about like.
Right, there was a scene.
Yeah, there's a whole scene.
Like I lightly touched on it just with like, oh, I didn't marry you for love. It was all for sustainability essentially.
So it flashes back to a thing from the previous episode, where the General, the judge, and Danglers all got letters from an Edmond Dantes telling them to meet at a specific place.
The dead guy.
Yeah. So they're all like freaking out, like who's doing this and why. And Albert had given the letter to his father when he was delivering the mail, so he saw the name, and he asked his mom about it. So the mom was like, "Hey, where were you this morning?"
Where'd you hear that name?
um. So like they're talking about Edmond Dantes, like, "Oh, who would use that name and why?" And he's like, "Oh, it's just a silly prank." But I guess to the point where they get into an argument about, he's like, she lets slip, like, I wouldn't have married you if he hadn't died. Um, so
And
they're
then
a little angry at each other.
he
Or
does his
rather,
best version of Kyle's mom from South Park. What?
That is a marriage-ending fight that they have there.
Mhm. I never loved you.
If the relationship had ever been healthy and they could agree on a divorce.
If she could safely survive the attempt to get a divorce.
Yeah. Okay. Does that bring us to rankings? That's what we do now on this show. I remember
What you've been doing.
how we do it. Opening theme.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So most of the music in this episode was composed by Jean-Jacques Brunel, who is the bass guitarist for the British rock band The Stranglers. It's a very cool soundtrack, and I recommend listening to it if you have the opportunity to.
The English vocals on the anime was so weird.
Looking at this, it's like I remember everyone's opinion when I mentioned with Mushishi how it was an older style of American music. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then I look at this song, and if I may drive, that's where I would put it.
Wow. All the way down at 27? It is worse than 08 MS Team? You did not like that one.
I was surprised too, because I remembered the closing theme as the opening theme and the opening as the closing.
Huh.
Yeah, if honestly, I would put a star at the end. If it weren't for what we have at number 8, which is our Imagine Dragons song, I would put it below that. This was the first song where I skipped it the first time listening to it.
Wow.
Now I'm gonna
wow.
I'm gonna come over beside you here, Bob. I'm not saying I agree with you wholeheartedly that it's just like the bottom of the barrel, but I would say it didn't do anything really for me one way or the other. So for me, this was like a take it or leave it. But wow, to see you have like such a hard stance, knowing you as long as I have,
It's
wow.
just so, I wouldn't say boring, but it clashed so much with the show.
I can see that.
If this show was purely aristocratic, for the sake of being aristocratic, sure. If this was Downton Abbey, this is the theme song for it. This is a show with bright, flashy colors, with an antagonist who looks like a vampire, and they play a song that's, I'm pretty sure, played at a funeral. It did nothing for me. The closing theme also clashed with the show, but I felt like was better.
Yeah, it's just a really cool rock song.
Yeah, it's great. It has a good beat. I don't know what I'm looking for a theme for this, because maybe that was ultimately my problem with the show. It's aristocratic revenge. And an Art Nouveau style.
I'll say this. There's something I almost wish, kind of to your point. There are certain shows that have been coming out. It doesn't happen often, and it seems like, but like drama or trying to be like drama or high epic shows that are sometimes trying not to have a theme per se or an opening theme that are live action. I almost wish this just didn't have one, because I think it just would have worked. Like, just here's your title card and then the show.
Yeah, that would have been. They would have pulled that off pretty well.
Yeah, because like I don't think to your point, I don't think there is a good opening for this that isn't at least some way tonally off enough to not fully resonate with this, in my opinion.
But I do think that the closing theme is good.
Yeah, I think
I watched a little bit. That one I actually played all the way through just to see what'll happen next time in case there's that like post-credit scene.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise,
Okay.
I saw your addition.
Yeah, we'll
That's
talk about
an
that in a
interesting
second.
choice.
So okay, Joe.
Haiti is not an Android anime waifu.
Holy crap!
All right. Fine.
wow.
Can't you be
Wow, I
runner
wasn't
up?
even thinking of that, but wow.
No, I wouldn't even put it at runner-up.
All right,
No.
fine. Oh, we have horses. We have horses.
We do have
We do, in
horses.
fact, have horses.
And they definitely make
Asterisk.
the list.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. These are horses that are going to a concert and
Oh,
absolutely
absolutely.
headbanging.
The problem is, I will put it at 3 for horses,
Really?
and ironically, 2 at Flying Pussyfoot.
Yeah, boy. You knew where I was waiting for.
Because the horses are awesome, but that stagecoach, which pulled off a TARDIS, definitely was
That is
something else.
that
If you
that
go
is
inside
absolutely.
and see 50 people can fit in there,
There are whole other floors of that stagecoach.
Oh, fantastic.
and
Okay.
and when you zoom out and see how the ground is covered in craters because it's the moon, and then you go inside the carriage, and they're just having a smooth ride.
Yeah.
And the suspension is great.
Mm.
Okay, so here's a new category I want to
Oh man, you're gonna
posit.
make me go through. Oh wow.
Because I'm
Question.
trying to remember, because like I know we talked about Gurren Lagann, that was Liran. That's the first one I put on the list.
Thank you.
Okay, so should this be best unfortunate queer characters?
Best worst.
Most unfortunate? Like, are
I
we
would say tragically
tragic? So that's the thing.
tragic
I like that.
representation.
Do we want to rank them by how much we like them, regardless of how terribly the show is treating them, or do we want to rank it by who's
tragic
being
the
treated
story
worse
is.
by the show?
I was thinking treated worse by the show because, I mean, let's be honest, the shows treat them pretty bad. Typically, on average, speaking of anime overall.
Bob, opinion?
I agree. I think it would be how tragic they are. Because for me, most of these characters I like. Like Liran is easily the top.
Characters that deserved better?
Most unfortunate queer characters.
I would say, can we throw the word representation in there? Because
Yes.
I feel it's just ambiguous enough on how you're putting this.
That's what I want to see. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Okay, so all right, I guess we got to do a little backlog of work here, right? So here are the characters who we have on the list. We have Liran from Gurren Lagann. We have Peppo from Gankutsuou. We have Puri Puri Prisoner from One Punch Man. Fred Lowe from Outlaw Star. And Rukako from Steins Gate. So yeah, I guess we're organizing them in the ones done dirtiest by anime.
Yeah.
If we're doing it now, I feel bad because I have my favorites on this list.
Uh-huh.
But the one done the dirtiest, honestly, would probably be Puri Puri Prisoner.
Yeah. I
Yes.
mean,
Just because of the way that they.
That is demonstrably the worst.
yeah, because the reason the character exists is because of sodomy jokes.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good.
Yeah, that's pretty terrible.
Rukako and Peppo are very similar in the way that they're displayed. That they aren't really like almost as jokes.
I see it's tough because like I think Peppo is kind of nasty because she is like I said, I think part of her queerness is in sort of making her an untrustworthy character, and that's bad. But
That's
also,
they also don't play up that part of her.
that's true.
At least not from what I've seen.
Yeah, with the episodes that we watched, it's almost a passing joke, which is unfortunate and wrong.
Yes.
But
And that's kind of the same thing.
Rukako, it's come up a few times.
Well, yeah, it's the same with Rukako because when we first meet them, it's slender as a willow, gentle as a dude. It's like God.
Yeah.
So
Like
I would put was it Rukako
yeah.
at 2, and Peppo can remain at 3.
Okay, but Peppo, so Liron at 4 then?
Liron on this list is my favorite. Problem with Liron is they are also the sex pest, and somehow they play it in a way though that doesn't truly solely focus on their sexuality. It does.
See, because like I think Peppo does have Peppo is very flirty. It is not necessarily See, I would almost say
I think-
Liron is worse because I think people react stronger negatively to Liron than to Peppo.
I would agree. While Peppo's,
I agree, but I can argue differently.
Okay.
and that's fair.
Liron is allowed to be himself.
Liron is accepted by the cast
Whereas Peppo is a maid, but and she's fine with that. That's who she is. But with Liron, we're allowed to make jokes at his expense based upon his sexuality, which is a gray area. Wholeheartedly agree, but as a gay person, I make gay jokes all the time.
Yeah, like Liron
So
is
if Liron's accepting of these jokes. At no point does he show a true offense or anger.
Liron also has a depth. Like there is character to Liron other than being gay, other than being a sex pest, and like
I'd say Liron gets the best of that.
And that's why I like him.
Yeah,
he's a developable character.
And
maybe my likeness for him is like coloring me.
I mean, hey, I think likeness is also a piece of this because like if a show does uses a character grossly enough, it makes it hard to like them. So I think that is absolutely a piece of it. I really like your description that Liron gets to sort of like honestly express themselves as a queer character, like even though they may do that through being like an overly flirty kind of sex fest kind of way, it does feel like it is the character choosing to do that, not that the show needs a gay joke in this moment, right?
And I would almost leave the list the way it is because Fred Lowe, kind of a forgettable person.
Yeah, honestly, if he's not on screen, you kind of forget he exists.
Yeah. Also, he provides them with their missiles, so he's a character in he is a queer character in a position of power in that world.
Which is not representation you get a lot of.
Yeah.
In anime.
And also like his queerness is like very downplay. No, he does call Jim adorable a little too much. But yeah, out of the people on this list, like he's the most just kind of a character.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Okay, do we want to keep this list, or is this too bringing down the mood to do going forwards?
What's your opinion, Joe? You've been rather quiet.
I feel like calling out the poor representation is good. I don't know that we need to rank it exactly, but
agreed.
Sure,
I understand what you mean.
We could make this an unranked list, but I just like the game of ranking things.
Yeah, I know.
But I guess
we can think about this some more too. And
this is not a one episode conversation.
Okay.
Just call out queer call out.
Sure. I mean, call out when it's bad. Call out and absolutely call out.
You know what's great? I actually think I like calling it that queer call out.
Call out?
Oh, you got it.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
I forgot to mention earlier, but one of the reasons that you may have mentally mixed up this story with either the Three Musketeers or the Man in the Iron Mask is because those stories were also written by Alexander Dumas.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Mr. Dumbass.
It's pronounced dumbass. Okay, the final thing we do on this show is we pick the next show.
I think we're to a new category.
Actually, Bob.
So, special occurrence.
This show finishes off our baggage tier.
Da 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 da. Wait, that's Canada. Damn it.
What?
I only know the Third Eye Blind song about graduating, which is "Can I Graduate?"
But yeah, so normally, we move on to the next category, but we're gonna do another little bonus interstitial thing
A new
here.
challenger appears.
Yes. Nick, would you like to explain this one?
Yeah. It's funny that we're talking about our ranking lists and considering how we're doing it right now, because one of the first bonus ranks that we put on it was horses, with Onyx and Kokuo and
Wait. Are we going? Can I posit a guess right now? Because is it something we've mentioned before? The horse that's on the list right now.
No,
it's not that.
So not Kokua.
No,
okay.
that was a manga only, sadly. Before we brace ourselves to dive into the existential crisis tier of anime,
man, I'm bracing myself just for this.
We are going to take a single episode dip into Pretty Horsey anime tier. We are going to watch Uma Musume Pretty Derby, literally Horse Girl Pretty Derby. It is a show about horse racing horses who have like human girl forms, and it's like a idol show. It's just about hanging out with cute girls, but the girls are all racehorses. We are going to freaking double the size of our horse tier list is the purpose of this tier.
Oh my god! I am both here for it and rolling my eyes at the same time.
Can't we watch like a few episodes of My Little Pony? Which, by the way, I'm not a brony, so I haven't seen any of the episodes.
It's fine.
I would pick a couple. I've watched quite a bit, and I think that show is actually very wholesome and enjoyable if you like hanging out with characters who aren't huge pieces of shit.
Friendship is not magic. Friendship is Magic the Gathering.
I just said I liked the idea of a revenge story. How can you throw me wholesome?
So I will say this was this idea came separately to all of us. I believe this is a show that none of us have watched.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Buckle up, Bob.
This is going to be a brand new experience for every one of us. Clench to your comfort level.
Keep your hands and arms inside the horse ride at all times.
I have every faith that I will watch the show. And I'm going to write down on my hand in marker which episodes I should watch.
Okay.
Just don't wipe your head after sweating or taking a shower or nothing like that.
Oh boy.
Because then you'll just look dumb.
So look forward to that next time.
Yeah, with that terrible, exciting news to look forward to, we are signing off for today and saying, what show did we watch?
Gankutsuou.
In space.
I don't know, but I'm finding my bridle.
Go eat a Monte Cristo. Deep in the Weebs is a show by Chuck, Nick, Joe, and Bob. Our theme music is Kawaii Friends by C. 3. You can find our show on YouTube, or subscribe to the audio-only version on iTunes or wherever podcasts are served.
I would like to be the first one to congratulate all of us for having nobody slip and saying Monte Cristo.
Except for me right there at the end.
I wanted to so badly. Every time. Because you had it on the list like that for so damn long.
Did I really?
Yes, you had Crisco on there.
Oh, I'm a little shit.
Yeah, you did it on purpose too. I remember you doing that to like get Joe's goat or something.
Yep, I sure
Yep.
would have done that.
Yep.